looks like Marissa, I'm going to introduce a couple of people here right now. Marissa is with us from the admissions office.
Hi, guys.
She's there waving. And my name is Becky Ledoux, and I am the program director for the Rad Tech department. And then we also have Scott Stringer as well, and he is it's just the two of us, and he's a faculty member within the Rad Tech department. So our faces you would see every day almost.
Great.
So Marissa's doing a great job she's overseeing the presentation. I'm going to let her speak right now if you don't mind.
Nope, go ahead.
Hi, guys. So Becky and Scott and Rachel and Steven. The other person who is in here is Riley. So we are just missing one person, but we are going to get started. If they do come into the waiting room, I can let them in. If they don't show up, then I can just send them a follow-up email. So as Becky introduced, I work in the admissions office. I am an alumni of North Country. I did not go through the Rad Tech program, even though I have recently started thinking about possibly a career change. I don't know. Who knows? This is
the
news.
program's that good.
It is a great program. It really is. And as you could tell, it is a very competitive admissions program. So there is an application deadline. There is a process that they go through in order to make sure that they are admitting the students that are academically prepared as well as emotionally prepared for what they are going to be facing in the career that they're going into. So I will be able to answer any general admissions questions. Becky and Scott are the go-to people for the Radiologic Technology program. I do want to tell you that we do also have our general admissions sessions on Mondays at 3 o'clock and on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. So if you do have any general admissions questions, you can pop into those, as well as our Money Matters Mondays with our financial aid department. So if you have financial aid questions, which is pretty important to learn how you're going to be paying for college, what kind of funding you could be getting with your TAP and your Pell through New York State, as well as your grants and scholarships based off of your FAFSA application. So that is your next step, if you haven't done so already, is to fill out that FAFSA application. I see that some of you have applied, some of you have been accepted into different programs, and then some of you are looking for the fall of 2021 for admission. So I will hand it over back to Becky and Scott. I do want to just let you guys know, I have started recording this session. We have been asked to do so just for some marketing purposes. So please be aware of that. If you would like to share your video, please feel free to. We are from a small community college, so we like to have that more personal feel and actually have a face-to-face conversation with people. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that is fine as well. I would advise that you pop open the chat option. So at the bottom of your screen, you can take your cursor and you can see the chat, and you can click that open. So then if you have any questions for either Becky or Scott or myself, you can put them in as a whole, or you can send individual messages to any of the three of us, and we will be able to answer them. If you do put them in for everybody, I will be monitoring that just so Becky and Scott can continue with their presentation. And then I will pop in if any question comes up that I think they should be answering right away. But if I know that that's coming up later in the presentation, I won't address that.
Yeah.
So I will go through and mute all the participants except for myself, Becky, and Scott for now. If you do have a question, there should be an option for you to raise your hand and we can call on you to address anything, okay?
Great. Thank you, Marissa, very much. I appreciate, again, she's the setup guru, so thank you so much for all of this. I appreciate it. I just want to give you a little bit of background. First, this is my first live presentation about Rad Tech, so please bear with me. Scott is our tech savvy faculty member in our department, so this is so easy for him compared to me, so bear with me. I have been with the program since 2004. I started out as the third faculty member, helping in the lab, doing some positioning labs, things like that. And then I was a clinical coordinator in 2008. And since 2015, I've been the program director. So I have a long, extensive history with the program. I don't look at this as just a job. I look at this as my life, and I love it. I love watching students grow from start A to start Z when they get done all the steps that we have them go through in the 2 years of the program. So from the very beginning to the very end, they are my children. I wouldn't say children, all of them. Some of them are older than me, but yet I look at them like that. I care that much about them. So and I might get a little emotional saying this because this week is graduation week. We had to do this on graduation week because we're having graduation tomorrow for the class of 2020. So yeah, that it's not just a program to me, and it's not just rad tech, and it is fully what I am about. So I hope that you enjoy this presentation, and it might spark an interest for you. But a lot of what we do here, and a lot of what this career is about, is caring for people. And so I feel like I bring that into the classroom, especially, and making sure that and Scott does just as much too. I'm just kind of speaking for myself here, but it's caring for people. That's like, there's steps to this process of being in the career. Wanting to be around people and helping them, having a sense of empathy, understanding equipment, such as computers and things. That's part of it too. And then of course being a team member as well, because you're working with doctors, other nurses, other staff, x-ray techs, maybe even an MRI, CT, nuke med, and then within the modality itself, radiography. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle of x-ray. And the nice thing is this program is just the foundation, though. This is just radiography for what you're doing here with it at North Country, but there's many other avenues throughout the career itself. You could fall into, like I mentioned, MRI, CT, mammography, ultrasound. Some of those do require further education, but some of that education can even be hands-on. So that's the added bonus. And you never know where you're going to end up with this. I was in high school and wanted to do this program to then advance to ultrasound. Well, guess what? I never made it to ultrasound. That just didn't happen. It wasn't in my cards. I ended up doing work down in Rochester for orthopedic surgeons, 12 of them at an office. And I worked at a prison for a while. But then the opportunity came about where I was able to be that third instructor. And I went on to get my master's eventually. And here I am now today. So you just never know where you could end up doing this. So don't forget about education is what I'm trying to say too. That's another avenue. So for us to begin this presentation, we will first start with I want to give you an overview of, and I don't know if you're seeing me fully now before I send off with this sharing video, this sharing piece. So I just want to give you a quick overview. First, we're going to do the website, the North Country website. Then we do have a small mini presentation that both Scott and myself will be doing. And then even that video that Rachel had already mentioned at the beginning that she viewed. So that's only a couple-minute video as well. So we have a three-part process here today. So I'm going to share first the website that I just want to show you, because after this is done today, you may want to go ahead and check it out and it's popping up here. As we have a handbook in our area of our website for the Rad Tech department. So in order to get specifically to the Rad Tech department, and why I want to share it with you so you can see, and hopefully you can see my mouse. Am I correct in that you can see my mouse? Okay, great. So with that, you can go underneath the academics, and underneath the degrees and programs, you're going to find, it will list all the degrees and programs, and this has been updated just recently. I think, am I okay? You guys can hear me well? Okay. On my end, I'm slow is what I'm seeing. So, so Rad Tech here, go under this one. And it could be my computer, but this is our main site here for Rad Tech. So you can get a lot of your questions answered by checking out this website. And specifically on the right side here, the right column, we even have, of course, the program requirements, but really the student handbook is what I want you to pay close attention to and go back in on your own time and check it out because it's very in-depth and it gives you a lot of insight as to the expectations of the program. So certainly check that out. I just wanted to quickly mention that this site is there and to make sure you use time later on to look at it. And then, of course, at any time, if you have any further questions, you certainly can reach out to me or Scott and ask those questions, but just to give you some information there. So that's a quick review there of getting to our website. Now what I want to show you and start with really is our presentation today, which is here. Again, just bear with me as I'm trying to get through these tabs. Let's see here. So I'm just going to share this. And all right, so you should be seeing that now, hopefully. Is everybody seeing that? Okay. So so we've already done our welcome. What is the Rad Tech? We're going to be doing an overview of what a radiologic technologist does, the program itself, the courses and the requirements throughout the program, and then also the application and the program acceptance, which Rachel had asked earlier. So we certainly will get into all of that for you. I'm going to switch it over right now actually to Scott to let him go through the next couple of slides and giving you an overview of what the radiologic technologist job duties are.
All right. So when lots of people think of radiologic technologists,
Scott,
yep.
Excuse me. Before you begin, can you go ahead and give a little bit of an overview of yourself? And then also, you do have control of this, or do I need to be doing it for you?
Looks like I have control.
Perfect. There we go.
So my name is Scott Stringer. As Becky mentioned, I am the other instructor for the Rad Tech program. So it is just the two of us, like she said. I am a graduate of the program, so I graduated in 2010 from the North Country program. So Becky was actually one of my instructors in the program. Graduated in 2010, went to work for Samaritan for a couple of years, and then in 2013, I got the offer to come start teaching adjunct at North Country. And then that adjunct fell into a full-time position. I've been here for 6 years teaching. I teach primarily the science side of things, which is the side that most techs don't particularly like. It's the more difficult side of things. But that's where I am in the program. Similar to Becky, I did go on to complete my master's, so I do have my master's in health science education. And like Becky said, it really is about the teaching. I mean, you're the reason why we're here. My primary drive is seeing you guys succeed, seeing your growth from when you come in really knowing not much of anything about radiography to 2 years later, going out and working in the field on your own, doing those exams on your own. It's just a great feeling seeing that growth in other individuals. So really that's my drive behind it as well. It's really all about the students. You'll notice that, I'll just mention it back now, Becky's the talker of the two of us. She likes to talk a lot, and I tend to let her talk.
Yes.
I'm more of the quiet side, but if you ever have any questions, I'm more than happy to elaborate on anything.
Our program, though, would not be nearly as strong as it is without Scott. He is very, very knowledgeable. He does the sciences. He'll get into that a little bit here in a few minutes. But he teaches the science courses in depth, and that is one of the most difficult courses to teach and or to learn as a student. So you'll often find Scott, and more typically on campus, with students in his office. He has a full whiteboard in his office, and he's doing math equations, and formulas is a big one, and it's in depth. So that's just part of the program, part of the career. Because remember, throughout this, and we'll get into this in a few minutes, but At the very end, there's actually a national exam as well. So it's not courses and work that you'll just have to remember a semester. You actually have to remember the material that we're teaching for 2 full years and then take a national exam at the end. Until you pass that national exam, you cannot go out in the field and take x-rays. So yeah, he's very thorough, very in-depth. He has a great way of explaining things. He's almost my IT guy for our department because he literally, he's that well diverse in the areas of multiple areas, especially within the sciences. So I love having him and we love working together. So thanks again, Scott.
All right. So I'll move on with the presentation now that Becky finished her.
Yes. Sorry.
So lots of people, when they think about radiologic technology, they think of when they went to get the x-ray and the guy stands behind the counter and pushes the button and then that's it. We're a lot more than just button pushers. There's a lot more to the job than just standing behind the glass and pushing the button or going to get patients then pushing the button. There's a lot more to it. So our job as a technologist is really to take images, but it's also the patient care aspect of it. We want to have good patient care and still get those images that the radiologist is then going to use to diagnose. So that's another common misperception. We do not diagnose the images that we're taking. Our job is to get the images and get them well enough that the radiologist can then diagnose those images as far as what's going on with the patient. So we're really the image acquisition side of things. Okay. To that end, we also aren't just sitting in the department all day either. So we go all around the hospital sites. So you typically think when you go to the hospital, you go to the x-ray department to have your images, but we will go over to the emergency room. We'll go up to the floors. We'll go to the operating room. We'll go to the ICU, the PACU. We'll go to all these different locations in the hospital because we do have mobile equipment that we can take to those areas. We do live imaging with what's referred to as fluoroscopy imaging. So we can see live images of what's happening in real time. Right? So there's a lot of stuff that we do that most people don't kind of put together with radiography. And the other place that we do go to occasionally is going to be the morgue. So if there's a morgue case, a death that they're trying to investigate, we may go take pictures in the morgue of that deceased individual. So these are cases where you may be dealing with things that do have a lot of emotional impact or psychological impact because some of the things you see will definitely stick with you. Going in to see burn victims or individuals that were young that have died. These are things that we see in this field. It's not just everyday individuals walking in the department that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the entire gamut of individuals, young to old, sick to healthy. We deal with all of them. Okay? So again, as we kind of have alluded to, patient care really is a primary factor of this profession. About 85% of what we do is really revolving around patient care. Yes, our job is to get those images, but really what it comes down to, especially nowadays, patient care is so extremely important. Making sure that that patient feels cared for, feels welcome in that hospital site, that they feel like they're getting the best care possible. That's really our job. Okay? So interactions between those individuals are extremely important. The other thing that we want to keep in mind is in this profession, it is not that you're getting away from various aspects of patient care. We deal with it all as well. So it's not like, oh, I don't want to do nursing because I don't want to deal with the blood, or I don't want to deal with the excrement. We deal with that as well. So you will deal with blood, saliva, urine, feces. We deal with, if it has to do with the body, you're going to deal with it in this profession as well. So it's not like you're getting out of that by going into this field. So for example, going to the emergency room, we're going to see emergency room trauma cases. You're going to see wounds as far as individuals that have gotten into motor vehicle accident or motorcycle accident, have skinned their extremities up to a significant degree. You'll see broken bones. You'll see individuals that have lacerated their finger or cut off a finger. You're going to be dealing with all that blood and gore and traumatic situations that there's a lot of high stress scenarios that we're getting put into. You're going to be going to those emergency room situations where the patient may be coding and we have to get that x-ray while other individuals are trying to save this patient's life. So we do still deal with those very high stress scenarios as well. Okay. We do go up to the operating room. As I mentioned, it should hopefully be advancing here in a second. Maybe not. Becky? There you go. So we will go up to the operating room, and you're going to see individuals that are cut open. You're going to see those open patients. You're going to see those open wounds. You're going to, again, be dealing with these gory situations, these visceral situations that we have to kind of deal with. You're not getting out of those situations. Again, the primary goal is we're going to be using the proper protective equipment to protect ourselves, but we're going to be wanting to provide the best care possible for that patient. So for example, we have an external fixation of a bone in this image. So the individual broke one of their the lower tibia or fibula in their lower leg, and then they went into surgery and they have that fixation where they have screws going in and they have rods outside the body kind of holding that bone in place while it heals. So we're going to take those images of that bone to make sure that it was set correctly. And up in the operating room, the other thing that we have to be aware of is that we're dealing with a lot of other individuals in that operating room. So you're dealing with nurses, you're dealing with physicians, and apparently it's not advancing for my keystroke again.
Okay, there we go. I got it.
So we're dealing with lots of individuals in those scenarios. And we're also, the other thing in operating rooms that we have to be very aware of are those sterile fields. So now we're going into a sterile environment that adds another level of complexity onto what we're doing, making sure that we're getting those best images possible, making sure we're doing everything that we need to do. But then we also have that sterile field that we need to keep in mind, that we're not contaminating that field and potentially causing harm to that patient. So there's that extra level of complexity and that extra level of stress, because again, operating rooms tend to be a lot more stressful environments. Okay. An example of why we'd be in the operating room is we might be doing that image for, see that plate and those screws were put in the correct location. All right. But again, we are a much larger part of a much larger team. We're just that very small aspect of the hospital site. Yes, imaging is extremely important, but we're dealing with everyone in that hospital site. You're going to be dealing with other technologists. You're going to be dealing with radiologists. Those are individuals that are in our department. You're going to be dealing with them on a regular basis. But you're also going to be dealing with operating physicians. You're going to be dealing with ER nurses. You're going to be dealing with individuals up on the floor taking care of patients. You're going to be dealing with admissions. We interact with all those individuals, and in order for that patient to have the best care possible, that needs to be a seamless interaction between those individuals. Everyone kind of has to have an idea of what other individuals are doing and what they need to do to have that smooth transition in patient care and get that patient the best care possible. So we're really just a very small part in a much larger team, and everyone has to work together in order to get that patient the best care possible. So when it comes to the program at North Country is a 22-month program. It's a 2-year program. It's a full 2 years. So you would start in the fall of your first year, you'd go through that fall semester, then you'd have a winter where you're in clinical for 2 weeks, then you'd come back for the spring semester, then you'd have a full summer semester where you're in clinical for that full summer semester, and I'll go more into these semesters in just a second here. You go for the full summer semester, then you come back for this fall semester of your second year, then you finally have a break for that winter break, then you come back for that spring semester, and then you're graduating. So it really is a full 2 years. You don't get the typical summer breaks that most college students would get. This is a very intensive program. This is not the program that you'd come into if you want to come to college and have a good time and go out partying every night. This is not the program for that. This is a very, very intensive program. You're spending lots of time studying radiography. If you talk to previous students, they'll tell you they're spending anywhere from 4 to 6 hours a night studying radiography. It is a very intensive program to get through. There's a lot of information that you have to retain throughout those 2 years. So the first fall semester, we're kind of getting those basics down, the underlying concepts of radiography. So we're looking at the basic science aspects of how x-rays are created. We're looking at the basic positioning, basic patient care, anatomy and physiology is in there, basic CPR and basic first aid. Those are all done in the first fall semester, because within that 3-month period of that fall semester, we have to get you prepared to go into clinical to take care of patients on your own by the end of those first 2 weeks in that clinical rotation. So after the first 2 weeks in clinical, you're going to be taking chest x-rays on actual patients on your own. So we have to get you to that point that first semester. So that first semester really is extremely intensive. We come in and we hit the ground running. So you really have to be ready. You have to be prepared coming into this program to really start working right off the bat, because we have to get all that information to you so you can then go out and work with those patients. Second semester, That spring semester is just more continuation, getting you up to speed with that field. And then you have that first summer. So that spring semester, you're back in clinical about 1 day a week. That summer, you're in clinical Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. All of our clinical rotations, every day you're in clinical a full day, full 8 hours from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a full 8-hour shift, which is great because it's a lot of experience hands-on that is going to help you learn that field. But that summer rotation is 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. And so it's essentially a 40-hour work week throughout that summer period. Second semester, you're in clinical second year rather, you're in clinical from Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4, and then at roughly every other Friday, you'd be on campus taking classes. So the classes that you have for us that second year are going to be what's referred to as a hybrid course, where you're doing some work online and then some work in the class. Okay? But most of that time, that second year, again, is going to be spent in those clinical rotations, in those clinical sites, working hands-on with patients, learning the field by doing it. Okay. After that second year, you're going to have your graduation after that second spring semester. After you graduate, that again, as Becky mentioned earlier, that does not mean you can go out and work in the field. Graduation, congratulations, you passed all your courses, but that doesn't mean you can work as a technologist. In order to be able to work as a technologist, you have to pass the national registry given by the ARRT, the American Register of Radiologic Technologists. So there's a national registry exam that you have to pass in order to be able to work as a registered technologist. So that's one of the reasons why this program can be so difficult for some people, because there's a lot of information, and that's information that you have to retain in order to pass that registry. So one of the things that we have is, if you look through the handbook, you'll see this, we do have a minimum grade standard for our courses. So in order to continue on in the radiogram, you have to maintain a 73 or higher in all the rad tech courses in A&P. The reason for that is, if you're falling below that level, all the courses that we have are foundations for the next semester's courses. So if you're struggling in that first semester and you're only getting a 60%, you're going to be way too far behind that second semester. You're going to be completely lost. And by the time 2 years have gone by, you're not going to have picked up a vast majority of that information, and you're not going to pass the registry. So it's better off to kind of step out of the program versus spend those 2 years and spend all that money and then fail the registry and have nothing to show for it anyway. Okay? So we do have those minimum standards in this program that tend to be a little more strict than a lot of other programs. Okay? But there is reasoning behind it. Okay? I think that brings it back to Becky, unless there's something that she wants to.
No, great job. No, that was very thorough. Great job, Scott. Loved it. Nice job. So a lot of what Scott did give you a great overview there of the program, but what you're going to notice too is, to really break it down, is the first year there is more academics. You're in the classroom. The second year is a lot of clinical, and that second year actually starts in the first summer along with that second year. So a huge component of our program is the clinical aspect, and we can't do what we do without our clinical sites, so that you guys can learn the hands-on piece. So like I mentioned, it is just Scott and myself as full-time faculty members within the program. However, at each clinical site, we have clinical instructors, and some site has 2 or 3 clinical instructors per site. So we have about another 28 to 30 clinical instructors and managers out there throughout the North Country that also do work for us, kind of our eyes and our ears, and teaching our students the hands-on piece. But then I do go out and I go to all these sites and I see you work in action as well as a student. So, so they are also out there and helping with this program as well. And they do it too out of the goodness of their heart, because they want to see these students come through. And then they also do it as a tool to obviously recruit new technologists. So it's a win-win for them. And it's for the students, they're able to really get that hands-on, that one-on-one with the patients, and then the tech there guiding them through the process. So again, like I mentioned, it really is us at the academic realm of it all, but outside in the clinical sites, there's clinical instructors that are always communicating back to us how the students are doing, what areas might need improvement, things like that. So it's a lot of time. We do about 1,500, 1,600 hours throughout the program from start to finish. So that first winterim is actually the first time that you step foot into clinical, like Scott mentioned. And it's during that 2 weeks time, you're doing a chest x-ray. In the spring on Fridays, from 8 to 4, you're doing upper extremity work, 2 of them, and a KUB, an abdomen image. And then once the summer hits, you're doing about 17 comps in the summer, 17 comps in the fall, another like 15 in the spring before you graduate. So it's a lot, it's intensive. The competencies are basically you're working with a patient from start to finish, and you're able to successfully complete that full exam up to taking the image and assessing that image to see if you have to repeat it or not, all the way to the final end. As long as you achieve an 85 or higher, you are checked off as you are successful, and you can complete that type of an exam on any patient that comes into the department. So the nice thing about this is, again, once you start comping on things, you gain more and more self-confidence and understanding of the process. And so by the end, you fully feel comfortable and confident that you can be by yourself doing these exams. So it is a lot to the program, the clinical aspects. So that's what we're going to get into right now, is the clinical education. So when you attend clinical, it is an 8 to 4, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. requirement. Anytime we say that, it's not a couple of hours a day. It is an 8-hour shift. Again, you have a 15-minute break in the morning. You have a half-hour break for lunch. You have a 15-minute break in the afternoon, and then you can leave at 4 o'clock. And you're not paid to do this clinical requirement. Actually, you pay to do the credits and get the hands-on learning that are granted by the program itself. So you do not get paid to go to clinical. You are, however, responsible for all the travel costs, and there's never a guarantee as to where you will be located for clinical. I'm going to get into the locations in just a minute, but how this happens is in the fall semester, first week that you're on campus, actually, I ask each student where they want to go for the winterim and the spring on Fridays. Everybody gets a choice, 3 choices actually, your first 3 choices as to where you want to go, and everybody puts it on a sheet for me so that I can start working my process of understanding where people are from, how far you might live from a clinical site, how much time you may need with one-on-one attention, and that actually comes with just understanding you within the classroom and within the lab as well. But if you did put a spot that one of your 3 choices, and I gave you a spot or I had to give you Watertown because that's one of our largest sites ever, and it is a big move for you, I would sit down, I would have that conversation with you, I would communicate with you, see about the possibilities. And what ends up happening is a lot of our students do get very close. That's one thing that happens, is they'll start living together and going to various sites at times. Or they figure out, oh, I have a great aunt in Watertown, so I'm going to go live there now, and I can go out where there's more spots back. So a lot of things just kind of shift and happen with time. So in September, I ask you, but typically not until the middle of November, do you really know where you're going for the January term. It does take some time, but you have to at least go to 2 different sites when you're here throughout the program. We like you to see different policies, different procedures at those sites. You're working with different radiologists at different sites, so they might have a different way of doing things. That's one thing about our program that I feel is definitely an added bonus, is the fact that you get to be, as a student, you get to get all those nerves out of asking certain questions and understanding different equipment, and so that when you're not stuck at the same place for 2 full years, and then say you get a job elsewhere and have to learn everything new, you've already went through the process at least twice. And some of our students go, hey, let me go to a different one. I'll learn new sites, new policies, new procedures. And so they actually opt sometimes to go to 3, 4 different areas so that they can get more experience. Our program too, again, you're kind of having, am I okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing else in there. Another benefit of that is by going to more sites, you're getting out there more. You're going into more departments. You're making yourself more hireable to all those sites because they know you personally. So
I swear you can read my mind, Scott. That's exactly what I was going to say. We know each other too well. Yes. Oh, Scott, you're actually on mute. Did you know that?
I just remuted myself.
Oh, okay. So they did hear that. Okay, good. So yeah, that's another big thing is that it's a job interview. Clinical is like a job interview. They're watching you. Do they want to hire you? So it's great too, because you really get to get these personal connections as a student with the team members that you could possibly be working with in the future. And then all of these sites, I will say too, all of these sites that we do have that I'll be showing you here in a few minutes, they know each other. They communicate with one another. All of them have, a majority of them, about 75% of the entire medical imaging department, meaning all the other modalities as well, they are graduates of this program. And because this is a very old program, it started in the 50s. And so it's just been continuing different locations throughout. Obviously, Saranac Lake is the main site for it, but different locations here in Saranac Lake is the main area. But we've always had these hospital sites and have had them available. So these graduates, again, just kind of went out, and they're out in the North Country working at those various hospital sites and clinics. So they do know each other. So they will talk too amongst themselves about the students and who they'd hire and things like that. So it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So going back to my slide, because I got a little sidetracked there. But in addition to the travel costs that you will have to endure throughout the program, you also need to note that you will be paying for any medical requirements. So every hospital, the HR departments, has certain requirements for the students that attend their sites. Everyone especially has at least a yearly physical, a PPD, your health immunizations are required. They want all of that before we can even send you to the site to complete your clinical time. So that's not so much a requirement on us, but we're the in-betweens. So we kind of take that information, then we give it to them, they pass it, and then you can go. But some have other requirements, more so than others. We would always let you know that. But everyone needs first aid, CPR, PPD, your flu shot's another big thing. By the end of October every year, it's mandated that every healthcare worker has a flu shot. If not, you can wear a mask for the 8 hours that you're there every day. I have never ran into a student wanting to wear a mask for the 8 hours. That is a lot to have on all day long. So our students will get the flu shot at the end of October, the requirement, and proof that needs to be sent again to the HR offices prior to you attending. So that's in addition to, again, other requirements of the program itself. These are medical requirements that we must adhere to as well. So here are our spots that I just kept mentioning. There's multiple spots throughout the North Country. Obviously right here in Saranac Lake and Lake Placid at Adirondack Medical Center. We also have Malone, so Alice Hyde Medical Center. Canton Potsdam Hospital, both in Potsdam and Canton. There are 2 sites in Canton now that we use. The Greenfield site, it's a big orthopedic office. I don't know if anybody Rachel definitely is from that area, so you know what I'm talking about. That large building that is all glassed in. We now have that as a site. And then of course, we have the E.J. Noble building too in Canton. And then the hospital itself, Potsdam Hospital. We have Carthage Area Hospital, Claxton Hepburn Medical Center in Ogdensburg, Elizabethtown Community Hospital, Lewis County General Hospital, Messina Memorial or Messina Hospital, Moses Ludington Hospital. That is our furthest south, would be Moses Ludington in Ticonderoga. River Hospital out in Alexandria Bay, and then Samaritan Medical Center, which is our furthest west that we have for a site. Our furthest north would be Malone. So yeah, we're scattered throughout the North Country, a 250-mile radius from Saranac Lake. So you're going to notice to that second year, which again is a lot of clinical time, 480 hours per semester. It's Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 for clinical, and then Fridays, every other Friday, you're on campus for classwork. And those Fridays that you're not on campus, you're doing computer work. It's a hybrid courses is what we do the second year. So Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, and then Fridays, every other Friday, it's on campus for classwork. So, but this is the range that we get to choose from. There's quite a bit there. And again, this is just kind of like a map area of letting you notice where we're from. Here's Saranac Lake, scattered again. Here's Malone up this way, and then Watertown way over here, and then we've got Ticonderoga as far south. So lots of travel does occur, but again, variations of hospital sites and such, and policies and procedures is what you're going to see. So that's an added bonus. So the mileage, again, quite a bit there. Just an overview of how far it is one way from Saranac Lake. And the reason we just tell you this, again, because you will be expected to come to campus every other Friday of the second year. So the first year, mainly on campus, academics. Second year, mainly in clinical, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4. And then every other Friday is when you would come to campus and conduct our 2 classes that we hold every other Friday, I should say, on campus for hybrid courses. So the application program acceptance and how this works, it's pretty in-depth. It does take a lot of time. It's time-consuming for the admissions office and Scott and myself, but it really helps us to understand who you are as a student and to guarantee that this is the right fit for you as a student and for us, for you guys coming into our program. So you must apply by December 1st, 2020, and you hit the Apply Now tab on the actual website, North Country website. You can't do it right now because the admissions office hasn't opened it up for the following fall. So you just a heads up, it's not something you need to do now, but time frame would be like September, October. That would be great. Just go ahead on our website. They will have it open and you can apply for the following fall. Overall, it's based on your GPA, your cumulative GPA, your biology and math grade, and your supplemental application and the interview. So the supplemental application is sent to you after you apply. So once you hit the Apply Now tab, you're interested in RadTech, the admissions office will send you in an email. So make sure your email is always up to date and your physical mailing address as well. They always ask me to remind students of that. So they will email your supplemental application. It is like a 3-part question essay form that you need to supply us with. And then a list of 3 professional references. And so then we receive that information, and any of your transfer credits that you may have, we also have to receive that typically by the middle of January is when we're looking for it. And it's on the supplemental application as well. And then by the beginning of February, you find out if you've made it to the next round, which would be the interview process that is conducted on a Saturday in February. And we do an informational session and the interview. So every student that does get to the interview process, which we typically have about 40 to 45 that make it to the interview, they have to go to the informational session that's held on that Saturday as well. If you need to do placement tests as well, if you're from the high school coming in, placement tests would also be done at that time as well. So it gives us a full circle of who you are as a student, how you're doing academically, and then of course that face-to-face interview, which is important because this is, again, it's a career that revolves around people. So hopefully you have those people skills as well. So then that is then determined by a rubric that we use. And typically, again, the top 24 are accepted into the program, and you at that point would get either an acceptance list or an acceptance letter, a wait list letter, or a denial letter at that point. And that comes out, you typically find out in the middle of March as to when that is. So that's the process of acceptance. And sometimes, again, things happen in the summer, and that's why we have a wait list as well. I've had in the past where a student went to tell their employer they were part-time at a pharmacy. They were a pharmacy tech part-time, and they found out that they wanted to do this. And so the employer was like, no, we want to keep you full-time. We don't want you to leave us. So they gave them a full-time job. And that happened at the beginning of August. So we had a spot open, and then we would call somebody on that wait list. So the wait list is there to really make sure we're full for the fall, and it doesn't mean that you're not definitely out, because things do happen to some of the students on the acceptance list. So don't lose hope is what I'm trying to say, even if you are on the wait list. So at this point, that covers a quick overview of what the program really is about, from the coursework to to the actual job itself. Scott did a great job explaining what the Rad Tech does, to the acceptance, to the clinical. Are there any questions that anyone may have? Rachel, Riley, Steve, am I missing anybody at all? Anybody else pop in? No? Okay. So Rachel, Riley, or Steve, does anyone have any questions, any other specific questions that we can help you with today?
So at this point, you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself when you do have a question, and Becky and Scott will be able to answer them. Becky, if you want to stop sharing your screen, so then you are now full screen or if we are in speaker view or gallery view, dependent on how everybody has their set up, they'll be able to see whoever is talking or everybody as a whole. But go ahead and unmute yourself when you do have a question, okay?
To be honest, you answered everything pretty completely. I can't quite think of anything that I had some questions before, and you answered those too. And I've been able to go on the website, and it's pretty self-explanatory as well. I'm glad I came to the Zoom meeting. That definitely clarified a lot of things for me, and how possible it might be for me to be able to do the program. And I'm still very interested in applying. So
Yay!
Yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for that input, Rachel.
Well, thank you so much, Becky.
You're welcome. Steve or Riley, any questions for you?
Hello.
Hello.
This is Riley.
Hi, Riley.
You seem to answer all the questions I had.
Okay.
But do I need physics?
Great question. I'm going to say, I'm going to let Scott answer this because he's a science guru, but I will also say I definitely suggest it. But go ahead, Scott.
So it definitely doesn't hurt. The science-based course is a little bit of everything. So we get a little bit of physics, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of biology, a little bit of electrical engineering, and we kind of mash it all together into radiologic science. So we do deal with a lot of wave physics because X-rays are a form of electromagnetic wave. So we do deal with that physics. So having a little bit of background in that is definitely beneficial, but it's not required. Just like having a little bit of background in chemistry or electricity or that, it's all beneficial, but none of it's required coming into the program. Having that will definitely help out with the math aspect as well, because if you're taking a physics course, a lot of physics is a lot of math, a lot of formula work, which will definitely help coming in as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Riley, we do find that students that have that background of physics and or an extra math tend to do much better in the program. Is there a way to mute? Okay, there we go. Tend to do much better in the program if they have, that background coming in. Riley, are you, if I'm not mistaken, are you already at North Country again doing the health sciences, or is that Steve? I'm sorry.
I'm not. I'm a junior in high school.
You're a junior in high school. Awesome. What area are you from?
I'm from Otsego County.
Oswego. Now, if you get a chance at all, because there used to be, there used to be a program in Utica, correct?
I'm not certain. I think maybe.
There is a Mohawk Valley. This is his aunt.
Oh, hi. Hello. Welcome.
There's one in Mohawk Valley.
There is one at Mohawk Valley, yes.
Yes.
So what I would actually suggest you do too, since you're a little younger, still in high school as well, and you have some time, go ahead and see about the local hospital there, shadowing, to see that if this is definitely the career that you want to do too. Just an 8-hour shadow for a day, They don't have to take you everywhere, but just to make sure that this is what you want to do before you spend all your time and energy and money into doing it. I always suggest anybody that I tour with or that is interested to do that, just to make sure that this is what you want and want to set your heart to, for sure. Because again, we're very upfront. Some things that we didn't mention, we do some invasive things too as X-ray technologists. We tip enemas into rectums. Like, that's another piece, again, that I'm very upfront on honesty and understanding of what we do, so you don't come here in the 2 weeks that you're in go, oh my God, I didn't know I had to do that. So we actually have to insert an enema tip into rectums of our patients, the rectum of a patient, to see the large colon. So that's one thing that's pretty invasive sometimes that we have to do, and might turn off some students to doing this career, but yet I honestly want to be thorough and complete with you so you understand. And like Scott already mentioned, we do more cases, we do OR, you saw some of our graphics there. It's not going to be just a typical, like a broken bone with nothing coming out, with no bone, with no blood, with no skin. It's sometimes bloody and gory, and that's what's part of the job. So that's why, again, just something to think about too is just a shadow. Anybody can do that, shadow locally. You do have to work with the manager of those departments and ask. It's not something that we do for you at the college, but if they aren't asking or allowing, and especially right now with the pandemic, it might not happen right away. But certainly they love to obviously have interest in the career. So, or if you're in an allied health program, that's another added bonus as well. We do get quite a few allied health students that come through the program as well, and having that background is a benefit.
My senior year, I'm actually going to shadow at the local hospital, so that's why I won't be able to take physics. And I was just wondering.
Okay, that's fine. Go for that program.
Thank you.
So.
Hey, Becky.
Yes.
Stephen has written in the chat to me what the GPA needs to be for the health certificate program or the health sciences certificate program in order to apply for the RadTech program. He is graduating in June of this year, but did not apply for the RadTech program specifically. So I do know that he has been accepted into the health sciences.
Okay, so that would be more like almost like a transfer. So
would it be a transfer if he's coming to our health sciences certificate program?
We would look at it more like that.
Okay.
But so I'd have to look exactly. Can I put you guys down? How do I do this? 1 second. I don't get those questions very often.
What are you looking for?
I'm trying to, oh wait, here it is. It's on my phone. I actually have it. Just give me 1 second.
I can tell you that the average GPA from this incoming class that is admitted was a 3.28. That was the average. So again, some will be above, some will be lower. But you're looking at typically around 3.0 or higher is most of the ones that get in. That's not to say there aren't people that are lower that maybe you did really poorly in a psych course or a social course, but you did great in biology and math. Well, biology and math are the primary ones that we're concerned with because that's what the field is really focusing in on, not so much the psychology or sociology. So that could affect the ranking there. You got great grades in biology. So we look, when we're doing the rubric, it's really the biology course, the math course, and your overall GPA. Those are where the grades come into play. So if you have a lower GPA but great biology and math courses, they kind of balance each other out. So just looking at GPA, it's not a great metric saying, oh, my GPA is low, so there's no way. Because if you had good math grades and biology grades, you could get in, even with a lower GPA. Or
it really does too depend on who applies. Obviously, that's a big key. But specifically, if you go into the tab for RadTech that I showed you, there is an admissions tab there, and that's what I was kind of getting to. Specifically,
in our college catalog, it also indicates that the minimum GPA for transfer students is a 3.0 out of 4.0, and that they meet the above requirements. So I will send that to you, Stephen, to let you know exactly what those requirements are, but it is a 3.0 with that certificate program.
Thank you.
Sorry, I kind of threw that question at you, Becky.
No, that's okay.
I should have had it in my head because admissions, you know.
No, I honestly don't get a lot of that. What I do get is the biology, which is an 85 or higher on a Regents. English, they need an 80 or higher, and then math, 80 or higher. So typically it's the high school students that we really look at that. And again, it really depends on who's applying, and the top 40 to 50 are typically sent to me. So
yeah, because usually we have that minimum GPA cutoff, but dependent on who is applying in that applicant pool, that cutoff could be way higher than that 3.0.
Correct.
Because we do want the best of the best in the program.
We don't like to really do that minimum. We want to hire. Always. Any other questions? I do have one more section here. I'm going to just wait a few more minutes, see if there's anybody typing or questions whatsoever. But there's one more small little part that I want to show everyone in just a minute.
I am not showing anything in the chat yet. And it did look like everybody was able to unmute themselves. So if they did have a question, they would be able to just ask it. But I will say that I will get back to you, Stephen, on those requirements so you can see exactly what they look like and where to find that. So you will know exactly what you need to do.
And again, it is within the RadTech website area too, right on the right, the admissions piece right there. So check out that website. Again, there's tons of answers to a lot of questions that can be right there, especially that handbook too. So, and I'm hoping too that everybody has my email address. And so if you have any questions, specific questions afterwards, you certainly can email me. Can I pop that into the message right now, Melissa? Would that be okay?
You most certainly can. I will also be following up with everybody who is here and everybody who was not available to come to do an introductory email just between you and Scott and them. So then they will have your email right there.
Gotcha. I have to do it one more time because I only did it to the host, I think.
You only did it to me.
Yes, so I'm doing it again. There we go. Sorry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Scott, because I have really bad bandwidth, so I'm going to let Scott take over and do the video piece. We tried this the other day and it did not come through very well on my end. So I'm going to let Scott take it over. Do you have access to it, Scott? You are muted right now, just a heads up. But.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, perfect. So this video is going to show you an overview of students in the lab that we have on campus, and then also students within a hospital setting working is what you're going to see here. So it just gives you an overview of just the hands-on piece. It's only a couple of minutes long, and so I hope you enjoy and you get excited to come into the program. That is our lab right there.
Place both hands up here, elbows in the front. Bring it in. This is the first room, this is the second room. Get ready to knock it on this floor. fatal anomaly is seen per paragraph.
So perfect. Yay. So
That was
that right,
awesome.
yeah. So that concludes this live North Country live session for RadTech. I want to really thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you for being the first viewers that we've ever had for this live presentation. Bearing with everything that we did, I don't know, I'm hoping we did okay. Please.
You did great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very good to hear. If you guys need anything whatsoever, please reach out to us. We will help you with any questions you may have. We want to wish you the best. And thank you to Scott. Thank you, Marissa, very much for all of your help. And take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.